So we actually need only 4 things. Let's see what these 4 are. We need the skills, confidence, experience, and connections. Now I'm going to walk you through exactly why these are important. The first one that most people focus on is the skills. But to be honest, this is not necessarily the most important factor. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But this is where most people fixate, because you do have to have some baseline skill. But you really want the right skills, right? You want the right skills, because like I learned a lot of things in college when I was studying to become when I was a computer science student. They didn't necessarily help me become a software developer, but I learned a lot of things. So we really need to focus on the right skills. All right. We need to focus on the right skills. Are you ready to see what skills we actually need to learn? I want to show you guys something. Can I show you guys a really cool technical roadmap of all the technologies that are out there? So these are the technologies that we typically teach inside the Joy Coding Academy. That's the Career Academy is a training school that I started to help train software developers. This is the tech stack that we usually teach. But let me show you something even bigger. These are all the technologies. Actually, there's probably some languages that are missing here, but these are the technologies you could be learning in this field. All right. Does anyone feel a little bit overwhelmed by seeing the vast amount of technologies that could be learned? Right? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, right? I might start to sweat just looking at it, right? Oh my goodness. These are all the technologies you could choose to learn or that a job ad might ask for, right? And so it might feel a little bit overwhelming. Don't worry, we've got a solution for that, all right? But let's just sit with this for a second. Can you learn all of this? Can you learn all of this? How long might it take you to learn it all? Right? How long? Wait, yeah. So thank you, David. No Adobe products, right? Like it's not everything. It's a lot. It's a lot. And we're really focused on the tech stacks too. All right. Might some of this technology be obsolete before we finished? Yes, Narcita, a lifetime. Exactly. Yes, William, you can't because it keeps getting updates. Exactly. Some of this is going to be obsolete before you learn the whole picture, right? Now this becomes a challenge then. Well, okay, well then which do I learn? What do I need to learn to get my job? So how is someone even supposed to figure out what skills are worth knowing? There's so many to learn, and even the experts don't know the whole thing. Like, what is the essential curriculum? What are the essential skills that are worth knowing for every tech worker, for every software developer? It's no wonder new coders are often lost and confused. So what are these right skills? I'm going to teach you about that today. That's one of the things that we're going to talk about in our trainings. And this is why so many training programs fail, is because they're just inundating you in technology. Here, let me throw all this technology at you, right? Do you get it yet? Do you get it yet? No, right? What you need to know is how you can learn to do it and teach yourself, because the technology is going to change. If you can only learn inside a training program and never on your own, you will fail. You will not succeed. This is why sometimes I hear stories of students that got these amazing jobs right out of a boot camp, but then couldn't keep them because they didn't actually know how to evolve their learning, how to evolve as technology evolves, how to learn the new things that are coming. They couldn't adapt. All they knew is what they learned at the boot camps. And within a year, that's obsolete. You have to know how you can keep things going. Don't worry, that's not happening to our students. I get the results. I get the students that leave programs and come to us for that very reason, because we teach those foundational elements. In fact, I just talked with a student yesterday who had a master's degree in software engineering. He had studied technology and programming for 5 or 6 years. He learned more in the first 2 months of our training program than in 5 or 6 years, because it's all about those foundational elements. Once you have those in place, sky's the limit. When I was a professor, I thought very deeply about what can I teach my students in 4 years that will serve them for a 20-year career, right? Versus a traditional boot camp is focused on, okay, what can we teach them in 6 months so they get a job? Well, what if we melded those together and we focus on what are the foundational elements we can give you in 6 months that set you up for a 20-year career? That's what we're talking about today, guys. All right. That's what I'm talking about today. So we're going to get into that today. Super excited. So skills is where most training programs stop, to be honest, right? Like not super cool, right? Not super cool. So there's 3 other super important things there. Let's talk about it for a second. All right. I want to talk about something that I often find is not at the forefront when someone is thinking about a technical career, but in fact is actually often the deciding factor, right? It's often the deciding factor. So we definitely need some kind of skills, right? And this is what, but beyond that, right? If I can teach you every technical skill on the planet, imagine for a moment that you did know that diagram on the previous slide with all of that tech. Imagine for a second that you knew all that, but you had no confidence. You still wouldn't have the job. But think about it this way, guys. There was a moment, and before that moment, I was lost and confused. And after that moment, I was truly confident to the point where I knew I could walk into any technical problem. I could be handed any coding challenge and I would solve it. I might not solve it in 2 minutes, but I knew I'd solve it because I had a process of problem solving that I knew I could rely on. And I had the confidence to execute it. And in fact, once you have that process in place, you don't need to know so much because you can just figure it out as you go, as you need it. In fact, sometimes I have students learning brand new web technologies that I've never touched before, and they bring me questions and I still help them and I still help them make progress because my process works. My process works. And I now have the confidence in my process, having applied it in enough real world situations that I can tackle anything. And I know I will get there. How awesome would that be to have that kind of confidence, right? That kind of power to be able to make technology your plaything. And yeah, maybe you don't know it all, but you can figure it out if you needed to. The 2 best ways that I know of gaining confidence as a coder: explaining things to others, because it's impossible to take the time to explain something to someone else and not feel like you've learned something, right? And you also deepen your own learning when you explain something to someone else. There's a double win there. So that's one way that you can increase your confidence. The other way you can increase your confidence is through experience, right? And this is another way that you can take action with the information that you learn, right? One way is to communicate it with others, and the other is to actually do it, to use the knowledge, to take action in the world and share it, right? Imagine the confidence when you create a web page and it goes live and it's actually supporting a business and has live users going through it. It doesn't matter how small the page or how small the improvement, it's going to make you feel good. So we really want to be adding value to others, right? Taking action, adding value to others. This is how we build confidence. So what else do we need? That leads us directly to experience. So what does experience look like, right? Experience is doing production level work. It's doing the work that you're going to be hired for, right? Employers are looking for experience. If you think about it for a second, can anyone on the internet say they know JavaScript, for example, or say they know Python, right? Can anyone say they know it? How do you know? How do you know that they know it? Why do software developers get paid the big bucks, right? Why is experience so highly valued? Because you know what companies are actually paying for? Companies are paying for people who know how to solve problems that Google and ChatGPT can't. This is why developers really earn their keep. This is why they're paid the big bucks. It is not because most of the time they're Googling, and we do. We often use Google in solving coding problems. That's not why we get paid the big bucks. Developers get paid the big bucks when they can solve problems that can't be Googled, when they can discover solutions that no other human has discovered before. That is why software developers get paid so much. That is why experience is so invaluable, right? And that is why you can't just learn from a school or a training program and expect to be hired at this high level, but you can do it but you have to have some kind of experience, right? Because you have to know, you have to have that process in place. It's the same process that gave me the confidence to become an amazing coder. It's that problem-solving process. You have to have one that does not rely solely on Google and ChatGPT. That's what I teach every single student inside the Joy of Coding Academy, is this process. And the reason I can teach you that is because even though I don't look that old, I learned how to code before Google came out. So Google came out in 2005, right when I was figuring out how to code. I know how to problem solve and how to solve coding problems when ChatGPT and when Google don't work. That's how I can teach it to my students. And I'm going to share with you as much of that as I can today. Every developer, right, with any experience who's a professional has come across a problem that is not documented, right? Because every software system is different. Every framework version is different. In your technical career, you will come across a problem that no one else has come across. You must have the tools to succeed even when those resources fail. Sure, we'll use them 80 to 90% of the time. Stack Overflow, Google, ChatGPT, awesome. But what happens when they don't work? Do you have a system in place to solve problems when you can't use Google, when you can't use ChatGPT? Employers pay big money for experience because only with experience can you become that confident coder who can solve problems that cannot be Googled or put into AI. And they literally pay you for your problem-solving process. That's literally what software developers earn the big bucks for. It's not necessarily how many skills they have. There's one skill that they're getting paid the big bucks for, and that's how to solve problems. No matter what comes your way, you solve it, you get it done. Can you get it done, whether you can Google it or not? So there is one last thing that can really help knock it out of the park when it comes to landing your first dev job, right? If you've already had dev jobs in the past, some of you may have, right? This is not as important, but when you're breaking into your very first role, connections are a huge, huge component of that. How do we build those connections? So there's actually 3 ways to get connections. We can build them yourself. You can have recruiters do it, right? Now, there are some awesome recruiters. And in fact, we have an amazing recruiter on staff inside the Joy of Coding Academy. But basically, at the end of the day, a recruiter is a resume trader. They may not be in it for you. Their job is to get as many resumes placed as possible. That's how they earn money. But they may not really care which resume gets placed, right? They're not necessarily in it for you. They're in it for this group of resumes that they have that they're shopping around, right? They're in it to place the next person, whoever that might be. It may or may not be you. Or you might have access to exclusive internal only job postings that aren't available anywhere else. And so we've also had some situations where we've had students that were the only applicant. 3 interns at the Joy of Coding Academy got job offers just in the last week. And one of those was an exclusive job posting where they only interviewed Joy of Coding candidates, right? So we passed them some resumes and they only interviewed our students for that job. It wasn't posted publicly. It was an internal posting. You had to know someone at the company to even be considered. And we were able to, make that connection for our students. Would you guys like to see that step-by-step process that we use every day inside the Joy of Coding Academy to graduate our 6-figure developers? What are these steps? So let me walk you through the whole roadmap, right? What we just did was kind of zoomed in at the end. Let me give you the full roadmap, all right? So we have the very first month. So again, this is a 6-month timeline. And just to be clear, I have seen students walk this path in 6 months, way longer than 6 months, and faster than 6 months, right? It just depends, but it is designed on average to take about 6 months. But that being said, life happens. Some people have experience, right? And so after I share with you this 6-month timeline, I can share with you the accelerated version for anyone that has prior experience. Okay, so I'll share that with you guys. Perfect. All right, sweet. Awesome sauce. So we want to start with your elementary foundations. Right. And so this is where we're mastering the 7 basics of programming to actually solve problems. Trying to code without knowing the 7 basics is like trying to learn to read without knowing the alphabet. The same is true in coding. And I see it countless times. People don't have a grasp of the basics and they start trying to build web apps. And it's like, that's a recipe for frustration because you don't have the basics. You don't have the fundamentals yet. It's like trying to run before you even know how to walk. Right? When you're still crawling, you got to have the basics down, right? And why is that? It's because the hard part of coding is not the language, right? The hard part of coding is not the language. It's how do I take this idea that I have and get it into these 7 basics? And these 7 basics, guys, they're a total game changer. You guys know that that technology changes fast, right? Do you guys know how long these 7 basics have been the 7 basics? 50 years, guys. 50. They've been around since the 1970s in every major coding language. So the 7 basics are absolutely foundational. And the evidence we have for that is because they are present in every major language that has come around since the 1970s. So we had a student, Pedro, who had been trying to learn on his own how to code for over 2 years on YouTube. 2 weeks into learning about the 7 basics, and he was able to create his own projects from scratch for the first time. Like, done. Right? Super great. And I just had a student, John, last week. He has a master's in software engineering. He's gotten 6 years of learning at different colleges and universities of how to code. And he learned more in the 7 basics in the first month. He learned more with our 7 basics than in 6 years because we have a different perspective of teaching it. After that, we go on the internship. This is where it gets fun, guys. This is where we get to do the things. We get to investigate the latest technologies and build, right? So we're working on a team internship project where we're collaboratively delivering working software to a professional client, right? Following all of those best practices. What if you were to live that? Would you know it better? Would you feel more confident with it? Would you feel more comfortable with it? What if you can point to a website and say, look, I built that. Here's how. Imagine you could just share that confidently in an interview. It's going to be a total game changer. The last step is easily exceeding employer expectations and landing that dream 6-figure coding job. And this is where there is some variability in terms of the time frame, right? You're job ready. You can absolutely be job ready, but then every job search is different because every person is different. Every person wants a different experience and they're looking for a different type of job, different quality of life, different location, different topics. We're not a cookie cutter shop. It's not like come in, leave this pathway. This roadmap is designed specifically so it can be customized to you and your unique dreams and your unique career goals. That's one of the powerful things that we have the ability to do on the internship. We get to create the curriculum together and customize it for you specifically, right? If you just want the fastest path to a job, sure, we got a pathway for that. But if you want something custom and unique to you, we also have the ability to offer that because we basically, why do our students get the jobs fast? Because we're planning out ahead of time. Okay, what's your dream job look like? Great, let's give you an internship experience and tickets that align with that. And then we do it. So our students are literally, their training is absolutely aligned with their unique goals. And we just, our unique system, our unique way of teaching allows us to do that. I just want to make this clear that there's actually 3 months of training and then 3 months of internship typically. So if you're a true beginner, this will probably be your path. But if you're slightly more advanced and you come in with some coding experience and you don't quite know where you fall, this is what the 3-month pathway could look like. So we have a 3-month accelerated path for those with prior experience. We're going to assume you know the 7 basics. If you don't, no worries, you can pick them up fast. We're going to really focus in the first month on that second month of training, right? Data structures and algorithms, where we're learning 6-figure software developer habits of success and acing our problem solving, prepping for that technical interview that'll be coming our way, right? Then we advance to the internship training and we get on a team internship project where you can collaboratively deliver working software to a professional client. All right. And then finally, at the end of that 3 months, you can start applying for jobs and hopefully getting offers in month 4, at least interviews, right? Offers can take time. It just depends, right? It's a process. I think the fastest I've seen a student get on the internship is like a weekend. So here's the thing, guys, right? If you're a true beginner, it's going to take you minimum 3 months to get to the internship, right? Where you're getting that real world experience because you have to learn everything the first time. But if you have prior experience, and it could be older experience, right? We've had students that have prior experience in COBOL or Fortran, and they fly through the trainings. So if you've already learned it once, you can fly through these things. And that's why someone with experience that's already ready for the internship, they get to the internship in a weekend. Others might take 3 or 4 months, right? It just depends. Awesome, awesome. So how do we do it? Do you remember at the beginning of the event, we talked about the importance of the right skills? How do we do it? How do we avoid the overwhelm of learning absolutely everything at once, right? How do we avoid that? So the way we we focus our learning on the right skills that actually are going to move the needle to get us started on that career is by putting the principles before the technology. It's putting the principles before the technology. We've already seen this with the 7 basics, right? The 7 basics are a principle. They go across every major programming language for the last 50 years since the 1970s. So to master the principles, right, that's where we focus, because that's where we get a future-proof career, right? We get a future-proof career when we focus on those foundational principles. But the challenge is that companies want to hire for technologies right now. They have problems that need solving right now in the here and now. They don't care about principles. They care about technologies. This is where sometimes there's a disconnect in how people learn. They go and they look, oh, this job is looking for Java. This job is looking for Python. Let me learn those things. Yes, well, if you do that, you'll spend all your life, memorizing things that have no relationship. But if you take a step back and you focus on the principle, that gives you foundational knowledge you can take with you the whole time. That's worth investing time in. But we do need to showcase that we understand those principles. And that's where we get to pick the technology that gets us set up for the career that we want, right? So if you want to be a Python developer, right, you can show those principles at work in Python. If you want to be a JavaScript developer, you can showcase those principles at work in JavaScript. It doesn't actually matter which technology. The most important thing is the principle, because technology changes, but the principles don't. That's the first piece of learning smarter, not harder. The other piece is putting your process before the solution. This is a really key difference between what I've seen in other programs, is that we prioritize your process over the solution. It's baked into what we do. We have a ton of support in our program, but whenever a student asks a question, our job is actually not to give them the answer. Our job is to help them discover the answer, because we value your process more than the solution to that problem. It's not about giving you the solution to the problem you're facing, because if we just give that to you, how will you learn to problem solve on your own? So instead, we give you support and guidance to get to that answer. I've also seen training programs that support you by not giving you any support at all and just saying, oh, go figure it out for yourself, right? No. We actually ask you questions to help lead you to the answer so you can see it for yourself. You guys have ever heard of giving someone a fish versus teaching someone to fish? If I give someone a fish, they'll have lunch today, they'll eat today. But if I teach them how to fish, they can eat for a whole lifetime, right? So we are trying to teach you how to fish. We're trying to teach you how to problem solve. And we prioritize your problem solving process over the immediate solution. So in the short term, it might take you, a little bit longer, a couple minutes, a couple hours, a couple days longer to solve that problem. But in the long run, the payoff is you will have that process that you can take with you when you graduate. And you can take to any job you go to, and you can solve any problem. Like, that is where the money is. That is where the money is. And lastly, is that learning by doing. That experience is the best and fastest teacher that we have. The best and fastest teacher. For instance, let's say you want to learn how to swim. Are you going to sit down and read a book on swimming? I'm not going to read a book on it. I could read forever and not learn as much as 5 minutes in the water. The experience of doing it. The experience of doing it. And how are we going to learn this? Let's say I want to climb Mount Everest. We're going to take it away from coding for a second. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. That'd be awesome. Okay, how am I going to get to the top of Mount Everest? What if I read a book? What if I read a book on the first team that got to the top of Everest? What do you guys think my chances of success are? Okay, guys, what if I watch a video? I don't care. I love TV. I love watching HGTV, but it doesn't matter how many house shows I watch. I'm not learning how to build a house, right? It doesn't matter how many movies about going to the top of Everest. I'm not getting to the top of Everest by watching a video, right, Jay? You have to do it. Exactly. What's missing when I watch a video of someone else doing it? How to think through it myself. All the little nuances, 1,000 little questions I couldn't possibly Google. But what do you guys think my chances of success are if I trained with a team of experienced mountaineers that have gone to the top of Everest not once, but many times? Now, what do you guys think my chances of success are? I don't know if it'd be 100%, but it's a lot better, right? It's a lot better. And the fastest way that I know for you to learn that process and level up your own process of problem solving is through rapid dialogue. We place a very high value on live interaction inside the Joy of Coding Academy, because you can have a dialogue, you can have a conversation. Everything is also available asynchronously. So I know someone had asked before, is this work at your own pace? Yes, it absolutely is, right? We have a community in place that's 24/7. So what does it look like inside the Joy of Coding Academy? Our Discord server is amazing. There's just so many students, so much support. And one of the ways that we do that is through voice channels, where you can just come and hang out if you're stuck and someone will join you. It's just like Zoom, like we have now. You can talk, you can go on camera, you can screen share. And so students hang out together. In fact, we've had students become friends and meet through the Joy of Coding Academy, and they're like across the world from each other, right? It's amazing. It's a really amazing, robust community. Awesome sauce. So if you're ready to make the transition to a tech career, right? And maybe you're not sure yet if you want to be a software developer or just like a low coder, or where you want to go. This is for you if you're just getting started, right? And you're not certain yet. You just want to learn how to code, okay? If you're tired of learning on your own, yeah, this is for you. If you can dedicate about 2 hours a day to launch your tech career, this is for you. So if you're ready to get started, we have an amazing program for you guys. I'm sharing a link here. We'll pop it in the chat. But if you'd like, you're welcome to join us. It includes all the curriculum we've been talking about today, but even more to give you more practice, so you can really make sure you've got these 7 basics down. And one of the hallmarks of our teaching approach is support. So I think you might have seen some of our students talking in the chat about how awesome the support is, right? And you can see them, they're supporting you here, right? Like you're not, Danny's here for fun. She's one of our peer mentors. So like she's just doing it, right? We have an amazing community of learners and that are givers, and they're very generous with their time. And we're all in it together, trying to learn together.